Hello, kiddos. This is Mr. B, and this is your art lecture for the first week in trimester 3. So this is week 1, trimester 3, and this is our introduction to modes, and it is based on the Bill Withers song Lean on Me, and playing a chord progression basically through the Ionian mode is what we're doing. But what it does is then illustrate all of the subsequent modes, because all of the modes are ultimately based on C major, which is the Ionian mode. So without any further ado, this is the second attempt on my part, because the last time I drew all of this, it took me 20 minutes to draw it, and YouTube said no bueno. So we're hoping to do this in less than 20 minutes this time. Introduction to modes. And that's going to be based on Lean on Me from Bill Withers. Your name is going to be in the upper right corner. And period 0. And I will give you the happy wappy rubric as well online within Canvas. But essentially you've got this, your top introduction section, your keyboard section, your pitch wheel, and then your staff. Those are the 4 divisions, really 25 points each. So this would be the first, naming it and titling it all correctly. Then you're going to draw a mock piano. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Give us 9 divisions there. And you can see C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D. So we have a little bit of understanding beyond just the 7 modes that we're attending to. Okay. And then we have here, since we have those lettered, we also want to note that the oldest Arabic system we have, it calls these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We've also referenced these sometimes as calling it P1. We refer to this as the perfect 4th. We call this the perfect 5th. And then this is often called P8, which is the octave. And all these things are derived again from the vibration of a string, the harmonic nodes that came out and were evident to people back in the day. This is probably one of the most important things to notice here, is that I am using upper and lowercase Roman symbols. The uppercase are major. The lowercase are minor, and these are 2 important distinctions with relationships to modes, pitch class, scales, however you want to refer to them. They all describe similar things. The capitals will be majors, the lowercase will be minors, and I'll explain what that means. You should understand that by the end of this lecture. Ionian. So modes based in C are called Ionian. Modes based in D are called Dorian, D for Dorian. Phrygian, P-H-R-Y-G-I-A-N, Phrygian. My memory of this is that these names are regions where each of these modes were sort of explored and exploited, sort of studied socially in a quest to understand how the universe worked. Aeolian, A-E-O-L-I-A-N, and last is Locrian. Now these repeat. This would continue again with Ionian, but we're going to leave it at that. This Ionian mode is in fact what we call the traditional major. And Aeolian mode is what we traditionally refer to as minor. It's more complicated than that, but this is going to get us started at least. So here we have our alpha system, we have our Arabic system, we have an interval relationship, and we have the Roman system, and these are the names of each of the modes. Now, what a mode is if I played C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, that is a scale. I'm just playing the white keys. I haven't drawn the black keys even here yet for us to see them. The black keys, if I were to draw them, they would be here, C sharp, D sharp, nothing between E and F. There we go. And we would have, obviously, these over here as well. Now, how does all this relate to our pitch class space wheel? So here's our wheel, dividing our clock face as usual. And inside here, we're going to call that P1. We're spiraling, let's call this one P1. We'll call the inside one P8. As we're spiraling upward, getting smaller. Frequency is getting higher. The size of the wave getting smaller. This is our minor second. This is our major second. This is a minor third. This is a major third. Perfect fourth tritone. Perfect fifth. Minor sixth. Major sixth. Minor seventh. Major seventh. Okay. Now, when we look at a C pattern from C to C, we have a whole step from C to D, a whole step from D to E, a half step from E to F, a whole step, a whole step, a whole step, and a half step. And that's what these modes are about. These modes are about taking this original pattern and then exploiting that pattern, but moving it and shifting it. That's what a mode is. So if I take that whole step, this whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, and then half step again, coming back. But I'm not specific to the notes. I'm specific just to the interval structure. That's what this means. Now, all of this, just so you know, is what we refer to as heptatonic. Heptatonic, that means 7 steps to the tonic. And we also know that we have a total of 8 notes, which gets us to the octave. And that's why they called it that. All right? 7 steps, 8 notes, octave. Coming back to what looks like the same note, but it's not. It's actually an octave above or an octave below. So to translate these things, I'm going to put them here now for you as well. So you're going to write them Ionian. That's this, Ionian. Then D, Dorian. D would be. Then Phrygian again, P-H-R-Y-G-I-A-N, Phrygian. Then we're going to go to Lydian. Then Mixolydian, M-I-X-O-Lydian. Then Aeolian, A-E-O-L-I-A-N, Aeolian. And then here we end with what's called Locrian, L-O-C-R-I-A-N, Locrian. This is our major. This is our minor. And then last, we're going to draw a staff. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And what you're going to want to do is make sure that you're kind of aligning these keys down here with the measures, because we're going to put those chord guides right here in line with the keys, so you see how they're related here for the performance part. And here we can go ahead and put in our treble clef. There we are, ending right at G. All right. So now the first that we're going to play, the thing that we got to look at now is again, how are we playing this week? When we start, we play C, E, and G. So we play C, E, and G. That's our first chord that we're playing. And we're moving our fingers C, da, bum, 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 and repeating it. So this pattern of our three fingers apart, we're moving across. So we're not using any of the black keys, and we're in fact skipping. This is technically the definition of a skip. A skip is a scale degree. A skip is equal to jumping a scale degree. So that's what we're doing. We're jumping scale degrees. And we're using the scale degrees by the Arabic system of 1, 3, and the 5. Okay? So the 1, 3, and the 5. So those notes here, drawing them down here, we're going to start with our middle C down at the bottom. And we have C, E, G. Notice that they are staying. I'm just going to extend these lines down just for the purpose of our art. Notice they're staying on all the lines. That's C, E, G. Our next, we're going to go up. We're going to start with D. And we don't need to draw the ledger line this time, but we're going to go D, F, A, following the same pattern. D, F, A. This time we have just spaces, D, F, A. That pattern is going to continue, right? So now we have E, G, B, E, G, B. Where I get that from is E, G, B. Same pattern, E, G, B. Then we have F, A, C. F, A, C, F, A, C. That comes from your F, A, C. That's where I'm getting that. Now, in terms of our performance this week, I drop us down and go into the lower register. So that's why I'm going to draw this a little differently. It also gives us the chance to draw some more ledger lines and show that we're now, in fact, getting down into what would be called the bass clef, technically. So here we'll have our G, B, D. And I get that from here, G, B, D, but I did it back over here, ending on this D. We're going to draw our two ledger lines again. And here we have A, C, E, again on the line. A, C, E. We get that from A, C, and E would be here. Here's the E, here's the C, here's where the A would be, one key over, right ahead of the B. And then last is here, which is B, D, F. And so we'll draw we don't need to draw the bottom ledger line, but we do need to draw the first one. So B, D, F, B, D, F, and there's that. Now, again, coming up to these notations of major and minor, the reason why they're stated that way, and we're going to add some notes down here in just a minute, is this. When I go from C to D, it's a whole step. There's a black key in between, so that's a whole step. There's 2 half steps. When I go from D to E, that's 2 half steps or a whole step. So that's 4 whole steps. So there's 4 whole steps first. And then when I go from here, from E to G, I've got only 3 half steps. So the ratio is 3. Now it turns out when we go across again, if I start with D and I go from D to F, I look at that and it's only 3 half steps. It's 3 half steps. But when I go to make the other side of it, it's 4 half steps. You're going to have to trust me on this for just a minute. So what this pattern up here means in terms of the Roman numbers is this. Majors have a pattern of 4 half steps, 3 half steps in the 1, 3, 5. Minors have a 3, 4. So you know that this pattern repeats. That's why these voices are very similar and why ultimately we end up only having a certain number of scales, because some of these things actually sound very similar even though we're changing the root tone. This here is our coming down here, coming down. Here's our Lydian, here's our F. This is our perfect fifth. So there's our 4-3. Here, this is a minor 6, so we know that's 3-4. And here's the only one that's weird. This little circle here, that little indication suggests what's called diminished. Diminished. And diminished means this. Diminished means that the relationship is 3 half steps and 3 half steps. So when we ultimately come to B and we want to come back to B again, if I were to draw B here, when I go from B to D, it's only 3 half steps. When I go from D to F, it's only 3 half steps. And that is what is referred to as something that is diminished. If the pattern that I use is 4 half steps and 4 half steps, that is what is called augmented. Okay? And that is the extent of the art that is due for this week. Thank you very much.